Welcome to the SAP HANA Academy. My name is Bob, and in this video we'll be looking at SQL tracing in the SAP HANA Studio. So in this video we're going to be looking at tracing using the SAP HANA Studio. So what we're going to do is we're going to trace any select statement on a specific table. That table is within our catalog schema called STS. And we're going to track a table called dim customer. So this is the table that we're going to track, and we can simply see that table by doing an open content. This is the SQL statement that we're hoping to track. So to set this up, we need to go to the top level of our folder structure and click on Administration. The Trace Configuration tab is on the far right hand side. And we're going to look at SQL tracing, so we're going to click on Edit Configuration. So the first thing we need to do is change our trace status to active. Then we're going to change the trace level to all. You should note here that we can actually trace error messages only if we want, and we can also get all messages plus the results, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. The next thing we need to do is think of a file name. So it will give you a suggestion, but I'm going to call this my dim customer trace. We'll then specify the user that we're going to trace. So I'm going to check and trace the system user. This is the user I've logged into the SAP HANA Studio. The table and view we're going to trace is dim customer. There we go. We could type in here HDB Studio if we want to trace that, but I'm just going to leave the application as all. And lastly, for the statement type, I'm going to only select DML, which is Data Manipulation Language, which is basically any select statement. I'll then click on Next, and we'll be given a summary of our settings. So when we click on Finish, the tracing will start, and you can see that the trace status is active. So if the way to view your log files, there's many different ways. I'm going to use PuTTY, log in as the root user with a private key, but you also could use FTP and download the file. There's many different ways you could do this. I'm going to log in as my HDB ADM user, so I'm going to use the command su- with the username. And by default, if this is your root folder for HANA, there should be a folder called HANA in this folder, where you can see there is one here. And within the HANA folder, there should be a folder called Trace. And this is where, by default, your trace messages will be saved. So within the HANA trace folder. So if I do an ls, we should see all the trace files. And I'm looking for an ls of like so, with my. Oops, let's just do an ls. So if I scroll up, we can see we've got my dim customer trace.py, which is our file. So I'm going to view the file using VI by typing VI space M and then tab. And we can see now it's already logging. So if I scroll down, we can see that it's logging anything that's happening to that table now. And if I press capital G, I'll go to the end of that file. So to test this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a select statement by simply going back to that table and clicking on the refresh. So that has executed a select statement, in fact this select statement. To view it, I'm going to go back to VI in PuTTY. So essentially I'm going to run the same command, and there we can see we're tracking that select statement. Select the top 1000 from the dim customer table. So now that we can see that, let's go and see if we can get all the results as well. So I'll quit VI. I'm going to go back to my tracing in this HDB tab. I'm going to edit the configuration and I'm going to change the trace level from all to all with results. Then I'll click on finish. Again, I'll refresh to run the select statement again, and I'll go back to putty and I'll launch VI again. I'll then go to the end of the file, and there you can see the results. So you can trace errors, you can get the results, you can see the SQL statements, but of course it's very important to turn the trace off when you finish. So I'm going to quit VI. I'll close this table, we don't need it anymore. I'm going to turn the SQL trace off by selecting the trace status to inactive. And lastly, I'll go back to putty and I'll remove that file. We don't need it anymore, unless of course you need it for troubleshooting. So the file is now gone. So that's a very simple demo in how we can use the SAP HANA Studio to do some SQL tracing of our SAP HANA server. Thanks for watching. You can see more videos at academy.saphana.com.